Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be making these beautiful palazzo pants. So if this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So to start with, I'm going to be folding my fabric into two because we are cutting the front panel first. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out 1 inch from the beginning of the fabric, which is going to serve as our starting point. So guys, all our measurements will be starting from that line that is our starting point. So this palazzo pant is going to have a waistband. So I'm going to be marking out 1.5 band. So I'm going to place my tape at 1.5 inch on that starting point. That means I'm throwing off 1.5 inches. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark out the hip line. My hip line is 9 inches. I'm going to mark that out. Then I'll mark out my crotch depth, which is 13 inches. To know your crotch depth, sit on a flat surface and measure the distance between your waist and the end of your bum on the flat surface. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure that round and mark out a straight line to indicate that line. So after marking out my hip line and my crotch depth, I'm going to go ahead now to mark the length of this fabric. So the length I'm going for is the length of my trouser is 45 inches, but I'm going to go ahead and add 2 inches extra, so I'm marking at 47 inches. So that's the length of my trouser. So after marking the length, I'm going to go ahead on that side. I'm going to go ahead and mark half an inch. So that's where we are going to be taking our measurement from the side. So I've marked out the half an inch of camera. So that's the hip line and that's the crotch depth. So now from that crotch depth, I'm going to go down by 3 inches, and that 3 inches that I'm marking now is where I'm going to be inserting my thigh measurements when it's time to insert the thigh measurements. So after marking that, I'll go ahead to my waistline. And the waistline, the starting point is what we are using as our waistline. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my hip circumference measurement. My hip is 48 inches divided by 4. That's 12 inches. 12 inches on the waistline, on the hip line, on the crotch depth. So I'm connecting those lines together with a straight line. So all my measurements will be taken from that part that I just marked out now. So I'm going to measure my waist measurement on the waistline, and that's 9.25 inches. Then I'm going to add 1 inch for that intake and 1 inch for seam allowance. So I'm going to connect that to the hip line. On that crotch depth line, I'm going to place my tape on that hip measurement. So after placing my hip there, I'm just going to go ahead and mark out my crotch extension. I'm using 2.75. You can use 2.5 or 3 inches depending on how big your butt is. So on that thigh line that I came down with the other time, so I'm going to insert my thigh measurements divided by 2. My thigh measurement is 31 divided by 2, that's 15.5. So that's what I just marked. So I'm just going to form a slight curve on that crotch extension to connect the crotch extension to that hip line. So after connecting it, I'm going to take my ruler and connect the crotch extension down to the thigh line. So after connecting it to the thigh line, I'm going to go ahead and connect the thigh line straight to the length of the trouser. You know, it's a palazzo trouser, so it's going to be straight. We are not shaping the knee or the feet. So I'm trying to repeat my thigh measurements on the length of the trouser, and that's what I'm just connecting together. After connecting them together, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So this is how my front panel looks like after cutting it out. So now I'm going to cut the back panel. To cut the back panel, I've already placed my front panel or the back panel, but I left more allowances both at the top and at the side of the back panel. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead on that line, on that crotch line. I'm just going to go ahead and come up by 2 inches at the waistline. So after coming up by 2 inches, I'm going to connect it down to meet the length of the front panel, to meet the waistline of the front panel. So that's what I'm going to do now. So after connecting it, I'm going to go ahead to the crotch extension again. You know, the butt is always big, so you have to insert space for butt accommodation. So I'm going to go out by I'm going to extend my crotch extension by 2.5 inches. So after extending it from the waistline around that crotch side, I'm just going to be marking out 1.5 inches. So after marking the 1.5 inches, I'm just going to go ahead and curve it, give it a slight curve to meet the crotch extension that I marked for the back panel. So that's what I'm trying to do now. So I'm trying to blend out the curve. So after blending the curve, I'm going to go ahead and insert my allowances for sewing. So I'm going to be inserting 2 inches from the beginning of the fabric to the end of the fabric. So after inserting the 2 inches, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So guys, I've gone ahead to cut out my back panel. So these are my 2 pieces of the front and the back panel. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to open up these pieces. So this is the front panel, the 2 pieces of the front panel. I'm going to join it together at the crotch area. So I'm going to join it together with 1/2 inch. I'll do the same for that of the back panel as well. So guys, after joining the crotch area together, this is what I have. So I've already joined the crotch area for the front panel and the crotch area for the back panel together. So the next thing I want to do now is to go ahead and mark out where I'm going to place my darts. So to do that, I'm going to fold the pieces together, the pieces of the front and the back panel together again, and I'll place it on each other, but I will make sure the sides are aligning to each other instead of the midpoint. So I will now start measuring from the midpoint. I'll measure my nipple to nipple distance, and mine is 4.25 inch, so that's what I've denoted. So I've gone ahead to take in the darts. So after taking in the darts, this is what my trouser looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead and place the front panel and the back panel together. So after placing them together, I'm going to pin it down. Then once I pin down the sides, I'll take it to my machine and go ahead and sew it down at the both sides. So after sewing it down at both sides, this is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead now to join the crotch area, the midpoint, the middle of those of the front and the back panel together, like the way I'm joining it now. So after joining it together, I'll pin it down, then I'll take it to my machine and sew it down from the middle down. Then I'll go to the other side as well and do. Then I'll come back and show you guys what I have. So after doing that, this is what I have. So the next thing is I'm just going to turn it over to the right side. So after turning it over to the right side, I'm going to go ahead and rip the side seam open, because it's time to cut our waist band, our band for this skirt, for this trouser rather. So I'm just going to go ahead and rip the sides open a little bit. I just need a little bit space so that I can measure each of these sides separately. The reason for this is because we are going to be cutting the waistband for the front and the back panel separately. So that's the reason why I'm ripping open this seam, so that I can have 2 separate pieces. So now I'm going to go ahead and measure the back panel, the waist of the back panel, to know what I'm going to cut out, and this is like 25 inches. I'll measure that of the front panel as well. So after measuring that of the front panel as well, I'll go ahead and cut out the waistband. So guys, I've gone ahead to cut out the waistband, and the waistband, the height of this waistband is 4 inches, so I folded it into two, making it 2 inches. Remember, we are using 1.5 inches, so the remaining half inch is what we are going to use to attach the waistband to our main bodice. So now I'm going to go ahead and pin the side that I added interface to, the side that I added paper state to. I'll pin it down to the waistline of the trouser. So after pinning it down, I'll take it to my machine and sew it down. After sewing it down, I'll take the other side of the waistband. I'll use it to cover it. I'll do the same for the front panel as well. Then I'm going to go ahead after that to attach my zipper to any of the sides, and I will hem the trouser, and that's all. So guys, this is the final look of this trouser. As you can see, it's looking so beautiful and neat. So thank you so much guys for watching this tutorial. Please do well to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Let me know in the comment section whether you enjoyed this tutorial. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.